All right, so as was said, I was an intern at Value, and as part of my internship, I held a survey on the perception of storytelling and realism in video games. Well, there's not a lot of time, we do lightning presentations, so I'm getting right into some of the interesting results, just the good stuff of this survey. One of the immediate results that I had when I looked at this survey had to do with a survey Value has done before in the perception of historical accuracy in video games. The pie chart here on the left shows that 88% of the respondents of that survey identified as men, which is quite a large number, quite a massive gender imbalance. Whereas this time around, the pie chart on the right, we had 60% of our respondents identifying as men. So that drop-off wasn't really explained. Last time we said, well, we shared the survey on Reddit. Reddit is just all men, so that's why we have 88% men in this survey. But this time we also shared it on Reddit. We shared it on Discord. The bar graphs here at the bottom. The red bar is the amount of men, and the left side is Reddit. You can see that Reddit has less men relatively than Discord. It has like 57% of the respondents from Reddit were men, so blaming Reddit for being like predominantly male wasn't the answer. So I was immediately confused, and I was like, well, what happened here? So I looked up some statistics on Reddit gender balance, which say that Reddit is 64% men, 36% women, which I don't know how accurate the statistics are, but this is nowhere near the 88% number. I've seen 70% men, 30% women. But luckily, Dr. Mol, in discussing the survey, added a question about what video game setting our respondents prefer to play video games in. Historical, fantasy, sci-fi, modern day. And out of that, the bar graphs here at the bottom are organized by men, women, and people who identify as non-binary. And the red bar is historical games. And you can see that that bar basically only exists for men who play video games. And out of our respondents, everyone who chose that historical games were their favorite setting, 84% of them were men. So it seems that that setting of video games is just predominantly played by men, and that's why last time we found so many men in our survey. You can also see that the purple graph is very high for women and people who identify as non-binary. Those are fantasy games, are posted very well this time on the Dragon Age subreddit, which might have influenced the gender balance of this study. So it just shows that when you do a survey on video games that you need to be really careful about what kind of genre you go into, what kind of setting, and you might just want to look for like women in gaming forums or similar forums to like have a more even gender balance, right? So that was a very interesting immediate result that also impacted the previous survey we did. So another very intriguing result is that we had our participants rank different forms of medium by how realistic they think they are. So we asked, rank documentaries, films, vlogs, video games, and books from 1 to 5, with 1 being the most realistic. And a lot of people responded. We didn't expect it. Usually ranking questions do pretty badly on surveys. This graph here, you kind of need to read it the other way around. The lowest bar is the highest average placement, essentially, of a topic. So documentaries are placed essentially at the top by most of our respondents, the most realistic medium. But of a video game playing audience, they think that video games aren't realistic at all. They're like at the bottom. Most individual responses put video games at 4 or 5 in this ranking. So that, we didn't expect that. We thought if you're a video game player to post it really well on the Red Dead Redemption 2 subreddit, which is a game that prides itself on how realistic it is, right? So we thought maybe they will put video games relatively high in this realism section, but they didn't. And we were pretty surprised by that. What's also funny to see is that vlogs, it looks like vlogs are like at the 4th place, they're pretty low, but they have a really high variance. If you look at the individual level, people place vlogs at number 2 or at number 5. So either they believe, they have probably found a vlogger they really like, or they like believe in, or they just really dislike the medium of vlogs, it seems. Which is just a very funny result, but we didn't expect gamers or players to think that video games aren't realistic at all. That's just an intriguing result. And as a final note, it is a lightning presentation. I already am near the end. We had a lot of questions of morality in this. I come from a literary studies background. I'm interested in storytelling mechanics. So I was interested in how like morality influences people's immersion in a game, moral choices. And I added a little bit of a stinker. I asked people, when you are given a binary good and evil option, which a lot of games like almost comically do, kill this person or save them, right? Do you choose the good option? Because we know from what some developers have taught us that it seems that players often pick the good option. In Mass Effect, 92% of players pick the Paragon options. But from this data, that's not what we find. We find that a lot of the people say, yeah, most of the time. That might be where 90% comes from, but quite a lot of players say, half of the time, maybe if I feel like it, I choose the good option. And it's interesting to see that there's a conflict between the data we have from developers and the data we find in this survey. It might be the audience that we asked. It might also just be that the few video games that have spoken out, the few developers have spoken out, are just a select group of data. It might also be that players think of themselves as like, I can be a rebel, I will choose the bad option, but then in practice they choose the good option anyway. So those are some interesting results. There's a lot more. We had 36 questions in this survey. I'm still working through all of the data and the results. The raw data will be available on the Interactive Past website at some point, and we'll probably be posting some articles on it. I'm still working through a lot of it. Thank you for listening.
Many thanks, Jurre, and just to say that Jurre and many other people at Value, like Omar over here or Corina, have done internships with Value, and we're always looking for interns, so if you want to do more stuff, and it's also a paid internship, so we value people's work. All data will be available at the Value website. So another thing that Value has been doing, or members of Value have been doing for the last few years, is the Past at Play Lab project. It's a project that was funded by the Leiden University Fund, and it was done by myself together with Angus and Sibyl Lames, our professor at Play here at Leiden, basically working from the premise that people have been playing for a long time. Walter already presented extensively yesterday on the topic of ancient video games, so I don't have to go much more into it. Ancient board games. We are going to talk about ancient video games. So we were interested in this idea that people played in the past and that we play with the past today. So we had these two vectors for our study, past in play, so how people played in the past, and past as play. And to do this, we thought, okay, we need a mixed methods approach to get there, to try to understand how these two things play with each other. So we came from three different backgrounds: archaeology, media and heritage studies, and digital humanities. And through using methodologies from these three different types of scientific fields, we thought, okay, we're going to study how people played in the past and how we play with the past today. This was the Past at Play Lab personnel: Angus for digital humanities, myself for archaeology, and Sibyl for media studies. And we had two amazing student assistants, Lotte and Lenneke, both from archaeology. Now, originally, we had this amazing idea that we're going to have an open lab here at the at Leiden University in the center at the Arsenal building. It's going to have a ton of ancient board games in there, contemporary video games in there. People can come in, play. We're going to study them. We're going to do like focus group discussions, have like massive play sessions to study and stuff. And this was our idea with the setup, right? So overhead cameras on boards, people playing, we're analyzing everything that they do. We're then doing surveys, we're asking them stuff. It was all great. We had all figured out. We got our funding, and we got our funding in January 2020. So then COVID happened, and then we couldn't do it anymore for a long time. So initially we thought, okay, there's not much we can do, we have to wait. We got some special permissions to work it as a lab. It wasn't what we had imagined, but in the end we did have a lot of people coming in. They had to like come with a specific like appointment, and we had to have a specific setup with cleaning and distances and stuff. But we did play a ton of games, mostly using the Royal Game of Ur. We played more than 200 games. And as gradually the COVID restrictions lifted, we started moving about. This is a pop-up lab setting. So this, all these cameras and everything can be torn down and moved elsewhere. We came here at the Faculty of Archaeology, we went to museums, we took it to different places, and in the end we had something along the lines of 200 to 300 participants and about 200 games played to study exactly this experience of playing ancient board games and basically answer this fundamental question of, is it fun to play these games? How does it feel? And how did people feel about it in the past? And we wanted to do this in a very data-driven approach. But because we had a lot of downtime, waiting for restrictions to lift, we did a lot of other things as part of the Past at Play Lab project. So we did a YouTube series called Game Bits, where we do short YouTube videos of 3 to 5 minutes, where we take a game that we really like and a theme from either archaeology, play philosophy, digital humanities, or whatever, and we try to connect them. So if you want, you can go to our website and have a look at it. There are, I think, 10 episodes in this series. And then we also did a course as part of this. It's an honors course. It's called the Past at Play course, where we put play in practice and play as research and education method in practice. We do this now for 3 years. It's been quite successful, and in the spirit of sharing everything that we do, this is also open and free. So if you go to our website, you can find all the recordings for all the courses, all the assignments, all the play material, everything you will need to do the course by yourself at your house. Yeah, we are not going to be there to talk about it, but we're going to be there in virtual format, so there. And also during that time, we did a lot more streaming, just like we're doing now. So we also, it was during the time that the three of us, together with some other people, both from archaeology and from the humanities, we designed the Streaming the Past project. I'm being, you're holding it the wrong way around. This is not, which is fine. So we did the Streaming the Past project, and we hired, for a full year, it was this scientific outreach project funded by the NWA, and we hired 3 student assistants to stream once a week, 3 hours, so we had a total of 3 days. We were streaming as well. We had a full year of basically almost 5 days a week streaming. So this was also a fun outcome of the Past at Play Lab project that led into a new, different project. So this is one of the stuff that we've been doing, and now I'll hand it over to Angus for yet another research project.
So what I'm going to talk about now is, in a way, definitely also following up on what Aris has just been talking about. If I can find it, in fact, I probably can. It's already there. So that's the wonderful Playful Time Machines project, which I will be mercifully brief because it hasn't it has started. For the funder, it has already started, so it started early in 2023, but a lot of work still remains to be done here because we will go on with this until 2028. So just as has already presented, it really is a project, a research project, a big 5-year research project with very much an interdisciplinary framework and project team. I'll talk a little bit more in depth about that in a moment. And one of the neat things about this, and I really want to thank the funder, so the Dutch Science Foundation, NWO, and then also Organisatie voor Wetenschappelijk Onderzoek. They're, in a way, for a funding organization, quite progressive and forward-thinking. So they actually allow you to put in research projects that have a societal rather than a scientific focus. So that is really a very big aim of this particular research project. Societal then is very broadly conceived. Of course, science is also part of society, so there you go. These are the 4 research questions that really drive this project. How is the past recreated and experienced to play in video games? I think that's a question that all of us sort of are very much, maybe in different phrasings, very interested in. How does this differ across popular types of past play? And how does this shape personal and collective heritages? And how can we leverage those particular qualities that these games bring for societal good? It's broken up along the lines of the MDA framework, the Mechanics, Dynamics and Aesthetics framework, with a bit of a new coat of paint and hopefully some inner workings updated as well. with a framework that we call the DEV framework, the Design Experience Values framework. So what that looks like in practice is that there are 3 sub-projects in this particular research project. All of them are concerned with the past as a playful process in the present, a video game-driven process in the present. So, all the way at the back, we have Corine Gertsen, PhD member of the team, focusing on the development of shareable and a formal framework of past play mechanics, so really focusing on the design of things, giving an overview of current past play mechanical foci and opportunities, and also sharing that knowledge in interaction and getting that knowledge also in interaction with game makers. Then there's Kirsi, also there, wonderful, and you will see these people pop up on the stage today, so you can ask them all the things you want to ask them about their particular sub-project. It's a design game analytics experiment, so it's designing game analytic experiments that really focus on past play game elements. So what is happening in the moment of play, and what are those past play elements that are popping out of that? And sharing that in both the experiment setups and the data that's coming from that. And then there's me, focusing on the close reading of games and paratexts, focusing on the cultural responses to past play. And of course, in practice, we already know it won't be that neatly divided between the 3 different sub-projects. But this is, of course, what you tell the funder. Hope you're not watching MAO, but we will do this, no worries. So my background is in archaeology all the way back, but now I'm very much firmly entrenched within the field of, well, both game studies, but also digital humanities. So that's particularly what we're developing here as well as a general framework. These digital humanities tools, these multi-scalar ways in terms of data of looking at things. And then one of the big outflows of this will be a creation of a values framework, particularly targeted to stewards of the past, so people that either avocationally or professionally are very passionate about safeguarding or sharing knowledge of the past. So, of course, we also have games that we're going to be looking at. 3 of those are still to be decided in probably what will be, I don't know, a death match or something. We'll see what will happen there. But we're looking particularly at 3 categories of games: strategy games, adventure games, and shooter games, broadly conceived from a bit of previous research we did. One of the games that is definitely on there is made by Jonathan Noordhagen, who is hopefully will be joining us at the advisory team for this project as well. Some little notes to be figured out there yet, but these are the case study games that we're going to be focusing on. So, I think this was relatively short. Lots of more info will be on Playful Time Machines. There's already an extended project description right there. If you really are geeky enough to dive into extended project descriptions, you can find it there. We will do regular project updates through live streams, so on Twitch. Is the idea. We will have an interactive research playground that we're going to try and work out over the summer what it actually looks like in terms of something that is both content-driven, knowledge-driven, and fun to explore and interact with, and all sorts of other events and outputs. So, public launch, so the real moment that we're going to go live with this project will be this September. Cheers.